My dad spent millions on iPhone and a car for his girlfriend. As a gift and gifted my mom kitchen appliances on Valentine's Days. Oh, I planned a surprise he'll never recover from. Asterisk, asterisk, one asterisk, asterisk. The Valentine's Day dinner started like every other family gathering at our house. Too much food, forced laughter, and my father playing the role he'd perfected over 23 years of marriage. He sat at the head of the table in his tailored charcoal suit, fresh from what he called closing a major deal, smiling at my mother like she was his entire world. The crystal chandelier above cast warm light across the carefully. Asterisk, asterisk, two asterisk, asterisk. When dessert finally arrived, my father stood up and cleared his throat dramatically. Everyone's attention snapped to him immediately. He had that effect on people commanded rooms without trying, or maybe with too much trying. Before we finish this beautiful evening, he began, his voice warm and rehearsed, I want to give my beautiful wife the Valentine's gift she deserves. My mother's hands flew to her chest. She looked at him with such pure adoration that my stomach twisted. He walked over to the corner and retrieved the large box, carrying it to her with exaggerated care. She stood, her eyes already wet with emotion, and began unwrapping it with trembling fingers. I watched from across the table, fork frozen halfway to my mouth. The paper fell away. She opened the box. Inside was a top-of-the-line blender, a food processor, a set of non-stick pans, and an apron that read Queen of the Kitchen. Asterisk, asterisk, three asterisk, asterisk. The room erupted in applause. My aunt gasped and said it was so thoughtful. My uncle chuckled and said Dad really knew his woman. Jake raised his glass in a toast. My mother pulled out each item like she was unveiling crown jewels, tears streaming down her face. You know me so well, she whispered, hugging my father tightly. He held her, smiling over her shoulder at the rest of the family like he'd just won Husband of the Year. I clapped along with everyone else, my hands moving mechanically, my face locked in a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Something felt wrong, not just wrong grotesque, but I couldn't name it yet. Not until later, when I was alone in the kitchen loading the dishwasher, and my phone buzzed with a notification. A tagged photo on Instagram. I almost didn't look. I wish I hadn't. Asterisk, asterisk, four asterisk, asterisk. The photo stopped me cold. It was her, Gabriella. I didn't know her name yet, but I knew her face. I'd seen her once before at one of my father's company events, hovering near the executive lounge, laughing a little too loud at his jokes. In the photo, she sat in the driver's seat of a brand new luxury car, a sleek black Mercedes with a massive red bow on the hood. Her smile was wide, radiant, unguarded. She held up the latest iPhone in her perfectly manicured hand, the same model that had just been released a week ago. The caption read, When he knows your worth, #blessed, #Valentine's Day, #spoiled right. My breath caught. I scrolled through her profile. Another post. A close-up of the car keys with a handwritten note visible in the background. I zoomed in. The handwriting was unmistakable. My father's. To my queen, you deserve the world. Ah. Asterisk, asterisk, five asterisk, asterisk. I stood there in the kitchen, phone trembling in my hand, listening to my mother laugh in the next room as she showed off her new blender to my aunt. The contrast was so stark it felt like satire. My father had spent what must have been close to $200,000 on his mistress car, phone, probably jewelry I hadn't even seen yet, and given my mother kitchen appliances, discounted ones. I knew because I'd seen the same exact set on sale at the outlet mall 2 weeks ago. My chest tightened with a rage so intense I thought I might scream. But I didn't. Instead, I closed Instagram, set my phone down carefully on the counter, and walked back into the dining room. My father was cutting himself another slice of cake, telling some story about a client meeting. My mother sat beside him, beaming, her new apron already tied around her waist. That night, I lay awake in my childhood bedroom, staring at the ceiling. My mind raced through 1,000 scenarios. I could confront him. I could tell my mother. I could blast everything on social media and let the world see who Richard Hart really was behind the executive smile and charity galas. But each option felt incomplete. Too quick, too merciful. My father was a man who lived for control, for image, for the carefully curated narrative of his life. He was the successful CEO, the devoted husband, the generous father. He sat on non-profit boards. He gave speeches about integrity. He shook hands with mayors and investors and priests. Destroying that with a single confrontation would hurt him. Yes, but it wouldn't break him. Not the way he deserved. I needed something different. Something that would unravel him slowly, thread by thread, until he was standing in the ruins of everything he'd built, knowing exactly how it happened. I started my research the next morning. Gabriela Santos, 20-8 years old. Former administrative assistant at my father's company, recently promoted to a vague consultant role that didn't seem to require her to be in the office much. She lived in a downtown high-rise, drove that new Mercedes, and maintained an Instagram full of luxury brunches, designer bags, and carefully cropped photos that never quite showed who was paying for it all. I scrolled back through months of posts. They're 6 months ago. The first photo of them together, distant and blurry, taken at some corporate gala. She was tagged in his company's account. The comments were full of employees congratulating her on her new position. I felt sick, but I kept digging. I created a fake account and followed her. Then I followed the people who followed her. Her friends, her family, her co-workers. I needed to understand her world, her connections, her vulnerabilities. While I built my reconnaissance, I watched my father. Really watched him. He came home every evening at 7:30, kissed my mother on the cheek, asked about her day, and settled into his recliner with a scotch and the evening news. Every Thursday, he claimed he had late meetings. Every Sunday, he said he had golf with clients. My mother never questioned it. Why would she? He'd been the model husband for over 2 decades. I started tracking his location. Not through his phone, he was too careful for that, but through patterns. I followed him one Thursday evening, staying 3 cars back, watching as he drove not to the office, but to Gabriela's apartment building. He stayed for 4 hours. On Sunday, there was no golf. He met her at a boutique hotel on the outskirts of town. I took photos, not to use yet, just to have. Evidence was power, but timing was everything. 2 weeks after Valentine's Day, I invited my mother to lunch. Just the 2 of us. We sat at her favorite cafe, the one with the outdoor patio and overpriced salads. She talked about her book club, about the new recipes she wanted to try with her Valentine's gifts, about how proud she was of my father's recent promotion to regional director. I listened, nodding, smiling, my heart breaking with every word. "He's been working so hard lately," she said, sipping her iced tea. "I barely see him some weeks. But that's what it takes to be successful, right?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Mom, do you ever wonder if he's happy?" She blinked, surprised. "Of course he is. Why would you ask that?" I shrugged, keeping my tone casual. "I don't know. He just seems distant sometimes." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Your father shows love through providing, Olivia. Not everyone is emotional. That's just who he is." I realized then that telling her outright would accomplish nothing. She'd been conditioned for 23 years to interpret his absence as dedication. his gifts as thoughtfulness, his lies as truth. A confrontation would only make her defensive. She'd protect him, rationalize his behavior, maybe even blame herself. No. If I wanted her to see him clearly, I needed her to discover it herself. Naturally, irrefutably. I needed to create a situation where his mask didn't just slip, it shattered. And I needed him to be the one holding the hammer. Over the next month, I began laying groundwork. Small things. I started commenting on Gabriella's public posts under my fake account, building rapport. I joined the same gym she frequented. I accidentally ran into her twice, struck up casual conversation, mentioned I was new in town and looking for friends. She was warm, friendly, unsuspecting. Perfect. I knew Gabriella wouldn't be invited. She was too much of a liability in that setting. But I also knew my father well enough to predict his next move. The week before the gala, he told my mother he had to fly to Chicago for an emergency meeting the day after the event. She accepted it without question, already busy coordinating with the caterer. I called Gabriella from my fake account, suggesting we grab brunch that Sunday morning. She agreed enthusiastically. Then I anonymously sent her a link to the company's gala photo gallery from the previous year, hundreds of pictures of my father and mother, smiling, dancing, looking every bit the perfect couple. I included a single line of text. Thought you should see this before brunch. We need to talk. She didn't respond, but I knew she'd seen it. I watched her Instagram story that night. She posted a cryptic quote about betrayal, then deleted it an hour later. The gala was magnificent. My mother wore a stunning emerald dress that complemented her auburn hair perfectly. My father looked every inch the powerful executive in his custom tuxedo. I attended as their dutiful daughter, smiling for photos, making small talk with business partners. All night, I watched my father's performance. The hand on my mother's lower back, the way he laughed at her jokes, the speech he gave thanking her for being his rock and inspiration. The crowd applauded. My mother glowed, and I felt nothing but cold, calculated satisfaction. Because in exactly 12 hours, everything was going to implode. The next morning, I texted Gabriella from my real number. A simple message. Hi, this is Olivia Hart, Richard's daughter. We need to meet. I know everything, and I think you deserve to know the truth too. She responded within minutes. Where? We met at a coffee shop downtown, far from anywhere my father might accidentally appear. Gabriella arrived first, her face pale, eyes shadowed with sleepless nights. When I walked in, recognition flickered across her features. She'd seen me in photos at my father's office, probably pieced together who I was the moment she got my text. I sat down across from her. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "He's not separated, is he?" No. I pulled out my phone and showed her everything. Photos of my parents at the gala the night before. Screenshots of their anniversary posts from social media over the years. A picture of their bedroom I'd taken that morning. My mother's makeup still scattered across the vanity. My father's suits hanging in the closet. Gabriella's hands shook as she scrolled through the evidence. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. He told me they lived in separate houses, she whispered. That the divorce was just waiting on paperwork. He said he loved me. I let her cry for a moment before I spoke. He's a liar, Gabriella. A professional one. And he's been using both of you. She looked up sharply. Both. My mother has no idea you exist. She thinks he's working late, closing deals, playing golf. She thinks those kitchen appliances he gave her for Valentine's Day were a thoughtful gift, not an insult. Gabriella flinched. The blender. You got a car and a phone. She got appliances. Do you understand now? Her face crumpled. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm not here for an apology, I interrupted. I'm here to offer you a choice. She wiped her eyes. What kind of choice? I leaned forward. Help me expose him, publicly. Completely dot or walk away and let him keep doing this to the next woman. She didn't hesitate. What do you need me to do? Over the next week, we planned meticulously. Gabriella provided text messages, receipts, photos, voice memos, everything. I compiled it into a comprehensive timeline of their relationship. Dates, locations, expenses. I cross-referenced it with my father's work trips and late meetings. Every lie had a corresponding piece of evidence. Then came the delivery method. I didn't want a private confrontation. My father thrived in private, where he could manipulate, gaslight, control the narrative. No. This needed to be public. Undeniable. Permanent. I chose the company's quarterly shareholders meeting. My father was scheduled to give the keynote address about integrity in leadership. The irony was too perfect to resist. I contacted the AV team, claiming I was putting together a tribute video for my father's 25 years with the company. They gave me access to the presentation system without question. Through our conversations, I learned everything. She didn't know I was Richard Hart's daughter. I'd used my mother's maiden name and told her I worked in marketing. She talked freely about Rick, her generous boyfriend who treated her like a queen. He's older, she confided one day after a spin class, toweling off her face. But he's so attentive. He listens, you know? Not like these guys our age. I nodded sympathetically. Does he have family? She hesitated, just for a second. It's complicated. He's separated. Going through a divorce. It's messy, but he says once it's finalized, we're going to travel the world together. My jaw tightened. Separated. Going through a divorce. The lies were so confident, so detailed. I wondered how many times he'd rehearsed them. That sounds amazing, I said, smiling. He sounds like a great guy. I started planting seeds. Casual mentions of relationship red flags during our coffee dates. Articles I'd stumbled across about men who lead double lives. I never pointed fingers directly, just created enough ambient doubt that she started asking questions. Do you think it's weird he never wants me to post photos of us together? She asked one afternoon. I shrugged. Maybe he's private. Or maybe he's worried about his divorce settlement. Some guys get paranoid about social media evidence. She nodded slowly, but I could see the thought taking root. A week later, she mentioned he'd cancelled their weekend trip last minute. Work emergency, she said, but her tone was uncertain. Does that happen a lot? I asked gently. More than I'd like, she admitted. I let the silence hang. Meanwhile, I focused on my mother. I began bringing up what-if scenarios. Hypotheticals about trust and honesty in marriage. Mom, if Dad ever did something that hurt you, would you want to know? I asked one evening while we folded laundry together. She paused, a towel suspended between her hands. That's a strange question, honey. I just mean, some women say they'd rather not know. Ignorance is bliss, you know? She considered this, her expression thoughtful. I suppose it would depend on what it was. But yes, I'd want to know. Marriage is built on truth. I filed that answer away. Truth. She valued truth. Good. Because I was about to give her an unavoidable dose of it. I started accidentally leaving my laptop open to articles about infidelity recovery. Podcasts about betrayal playing just loud enough for her to overhear snippets. I never addressed it directly, but I watched her face when she thought I wasn't looking. She was starting to think, starting to wonder. In early April, I made my next move. I'd befriended Gabriella's roommate, Claire, through the gym connection. Claire was chatty, trusting, and loved to gossip. Over drinks one night, I steered the conversation toward Gabriella's relationship. She seems so happy with Rick, I said. Claire snorted. Please. That guy is shady as hell. Really? She leaned in conspiratorially. Gabby won't admit it, but I've done some digging. His social media is locked down tight. No photos of her anywhere. And he only comes over when he says his business trips allow it. Classic married guy behavior. You think he's married? I bet money on it. But Gabby's convinced he's separated. She even showed me texts where he talks about their future together. Either he's a really committed liar, or she's really committed to being delusional. I took a slow sip of my wine. That's awful. Someone should tell her. Claire shrugged. I've tried. She doesn't want to hear it. She's in love. I let that sit for a moment, then said carefully, what if there was proof? Like, undeniable proof? Claire's eyes lit up with intrigue. What kind of proof? Hypothetically, if someone could show her that he was still living with his wife, still playing happy family, would that be enough? Oh, absolutely. Gabby's not stupid. If she saw it with her own eyes, she'd lose it. I smiled. Good to know. Over the next 2 weeks, I orchestrated the perfect opportunity. My father's company was hosting their annual spring gala, a black tie event my mother had been planning her outfit for since January. It was the one night a year where he paraded her around like a trophy, introduced her to investors and board members, played the devoted husband for an audience of hundreds.